Many people over the years have heard that story, and they have said, "Oh, Kelly, you have such strong faith." But I'm telling you, that was not me. That was Christ in me. I was an absolute mess. I was completely broken. But God met me, and He poured peace and hope into the deepest pain I'd ever known. Our God is faithful. My mom came home from work. She already knew about Kayla's diagnosis. We talked and we prayed, and it was a very special moment to me. And my dear sweet dad was still playing with Kayla hours later, just letting me process through this pain with the Lord. But he came into the room and he said, "I'm hungry." I don't really know how men can eat at a time like that. But my mom and I, without even thinking, we jumped in the car to go grab a takeout pizza. We walked in that restaurant, and the first thing I saw was a little boy with 2 hearing aids on. I instantly began to talk to the mom. I told her my daughter had just been diagnosed as profoundly deaf. And she told me about her son. She gave me her phone number. She was a Christian woman. She gave me the phone number of the preschool where her son was receiving speech therapy. And before I left, she said to me, "We never go out on Friday nights. We usually stay home with our 4 children. We watch a movie, we order a pizza and have it delivered. But tonight we decided to do something different and try a new place." She looked me in the eye and she said, "I had no idea why I ended up here, but now I know." As I walked out the door that night, God spoke to my heart and He said, "See, Kelly, I will never leave you or forsake you." God was making it abundantly clear that He was the one who had orchestrated all the events of that evening. This was not a mistake. It didn't take Him by surprise. And His faithfulness did not end there. On the day Kayla was diagnosed, October 14th, Lee was already on a plane coming home from Korea on a date that he had chosen 9 months earlier. God is so faithful. I was so glad Lee and I got to go through that time of grieving together. He got to see Kayla was still the same fun, beautiful, strong-willed little girl he had left behind. During the day, we did a lot of investigating. This was before the internet, so we actually had to read books. We spent a lot of time on the phone. We called people. We were calling people all over the country and trying to figure out what is the best way to teach deaf children to learn to talk. So during the day, we were busy. We were having fun being together as a family. But at night, the pain and darkness would descend on our heart in fresh waves. And we would lay in each other's arms and cry and pray. Well, I would cry, we would pray. But we prayed scripture that reminded us that God is sovereign. He is powerful. He has a purpose and a plan. He had a plan for Kayla, and He was going to bring purpose out of her pain. We could trust Him to bring glory in and through this whole situation. During this time, God reminded me of a prayer I prayed when I was 14 years old. I was at a youth group, and they taught us how to have special time alone with God. They taught us how to pray, how to structure our prayer time, how to spend time in adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. They taught us how to read the Bible. I began to read Psalms, and I picked out all these praise songs, and I just prayed them back to God. I spent my entire prayer time in the adoration part and just began to feel the presence of God. I began to experience the joy that can come from just worshiping Him. It was a really special time for me. God began to grow up my faith, and I began to know Him as a God who is very near. During that time, I was also reading a book by Dale Evans Rogers called Angel Unaware. And this was the story of her child born with Down syndrome. She was very honest about how hard it was for her to trust God through all this. But then she talked about how God had used their story to bring many into a knowledge of Jesus Christ. And that story changed my life. I said, God, I want that to be me. I want you to use my life to bring glory to your name. I will follow you no matter what the cost, no matter where you lead. And then I added, and Lord, maybe when I grow up, I'll adopt a child with special needs. The desire behind that prayer was that I wanted to walk through something hard so that other people could see that God could be trusted with the problems in their life. I deeply wanted to be a light that would lead people to the hope that Jesus offers. But when I look back at that prayer, I was completely amazed. Because it's such a testimony to our God, who does not know the word unexpected. He already knew what my future held, and he was walking with me at the age of 14 and preparing my young, naive, clueless little heart to follow him many years down the road. He is faithful. What is unknown to me is known to our God. Well, Lee returned home from Korea, and our little family was reunited in Phoenix, Arizona, while he was stationed at Luke Air Force Base. We were still adjusting to the fact that Kayla was deaf, and the grief would arrive in unexpected moments. One day I'd see the little preschool choir singing at church, and I'd start to cry. Another day I got a newsletter in the mail, and my friend was talking about her little 2-year-old daughter. They asked her, "Where does Jesus live?" And she said, "He lives in my heart." And that story broke my heart, because the thing that was most precious to me, my love of Jesus, I couldn't share with my little girl because she didn't have very much language at all. She could name a few objects, but that was it. We didn't have the kind of communication I longed for.